So imagine you get a phone call from your doctor and he tells you that your biopsy came back and that you have cancer. And on top of that, imagine getting this phone call while you are in the middle of unpacking because you just moved because you are in the middle of a divorce. How do you deal with that type of news in the middle of one of the hardest times in your life? Well, in this video, you're going to meet Kim Kaiser. She's going to share with us how it was her positive thinking, her outlook on life, and her belief in God that got her through it. Not only did it get her through it, but how those three things are just as important as the treatment for the disease itself. This is a great video and really a great story of resilience. Enjoy. Okay, so how you feeling, by the way?
Good. Excellent. I mean, we're just having a chat, right?
Yeah,
Telling stories. That's what I love to do. That's just what I like to do.
That's all it's about. 1, 2, 3. All right. I'm here today with my friend Kim Kaiser. And Kim, you're going to tell your story about what you do in a minute. But Kim is a little bit different than most of my guests. And I have several guests now coming in that are like this. Normally I do stories about the resilience of a business owner, which really you probably have a story there as well. But I brought you in because really you were diagnosed with cancer how many years ago?
That was in 2016, so about 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here you are today. And at the same time you found out about that, very similar, right around the same time you found out about your son having health problems.
Yes.
So again, we're going to talk about, and then today you're doing great, so is your son, so true resilience. But before we go into that, tell me a little bit about what you do today to make a living.
Yeah, so today I'm what I call a business coach, but I say that I'm unconventional. And what I mean by that is I look at things that are invisible to most people. And what I mean by that is energy. I look at the energy of a business. I look at the energy of the business owner, what they're offering. And foundationally, that's where I coach them. We also coach about sales and marketing and structures and all sorts of things, but all of that comes from a core energetic frequency that most people don't even know about or acknowledge. So when we start kind of messing with the energy of it in people's businesses, in themselves, the results are just incredibly magical. So
when you first start doing it, did they get a little nervous? Like, what is this? Right? Because that's not.
It's really hard to explain. That how I just said it to you is maybe the best way I've ever explained it. But it's hard to explain. There's a great deal of trust that my clients have in me, even just to hire me.
Yeah.
And so I know when someone sort of steps into my field, they're really meant to be there, because it is really hard to describe. It's hard to convey without actually kind of being in communication with me. So
Yeah. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been coaching for 11 years. I would say more from this energetic standpoint. I just kept seeing over and over that there were things, like unpredictable things that would happen in a good way for the business owners. And it always came from sort of this dimension that's really invisible to us. And I got really interested in that about 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And also, your husband owns an ice cream place. Tell us about that, which I shot a couple of videos.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, so Craft Creamery here in Houston, Texas. He's a 40-year chef. He's using all of his culinary expertise, including having cooked in 21 Michelin star restaurants, employed by 3 of those, to bring ice cream to a completely new level. And so I also provide my business coaching to him as well. I'm sort of his secret weapon. So
And why don't you tell people, since we got some attention, about the ice cream dinners?
Yeah. Okay. So that's it. That's a great example of what I do with my clients is, Steve and I were thinking about, how do we get people into the shop? And I started to ask him about these Michelin star experiences that he'd had. And when he started counting off how many Michelin star restaurants he'd actually worked in the kitchens of, it got up to a dozen, and I was like, ding, 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 there's something there. And then these ice cream for dinner, wine dinners, became the idea.
Steve was explaining to everybody why he pairs this flavor of ice cream with these things, and with this wine or this sherry. Did you guys do sherry wine?
Yes, we did a sherry. Yeah.
So he's explaining why he pairs those up together and why it works so well with the palate. Is that am I saying that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it does. I was like, people are like, wow.
Yeah, and he has great stories because he's cooked around the world. So anyway, again, not to make this a big commercial, but it's just a fun story, isn't it? It's just a fun story.
And it's ice cream. Like I say, everybody loves ice cream.
Everyone loves ice cream.
All right, so Kim, if you don't mind, let's 2016.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you some questions about when you were diagnosed, but first of all, did you have any kind of side effect before you knew? Is that why you went to the doctor, or you went for a routine checkup?
No, I went for a routine checkup and thought, like all my routine checkups, that everything would be fine. And I happened to be like in the middle of a divorce from my son's son's father. I almost forgot about it too, but like that was really sort of the context. Was we were separating households, and I'd gone in for my just my annual checkup, and like literally I think I was in the kitchen unpacking boxes. Like my hands were in boxes at our new place in May of 2016, and I got this call from my doctor that the mammogram did not come back normal. And so, like literally, I was between two households trying to get my son settled, which was, of course, like a hard time for him.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, well, what do we do? What do we need to do? And he said, well, I think we just need to. It's small. It wasn't super serious, but like you don't mess with it, these days. And he said, we're going to set you up for a surgery on whatever, like a week or two later.
Surgery, not even a biopsy first.
I'm trying to remember why they didn't biopsy first. Oh, no. I may have gotten a little out. So there was a biopsy.
Okay.
That's what he was calling me with.
Okay.
The mammogram, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, no
the
problem.
mammogram came back abnormal. They did a biopsy, and then I got the news that I had breast cancer.
On the phone.
As I was moving. And so then we were going to just have a little surgery to remove that, and we did. And I got another call, which was, okay, well, it was more than what we thought, and now we're going to have to go back in. And so, so like this time period, that couple of months, I think it was 2 months, we're sort of like, we're this, abnormal test, biopsy, surgery again, like meeting with an oncologist. It was pretty intense, especially in the midst of going through a divorce. And so I had to, because of all the medical stuff, like I had to call my soon-to-be ex, like it was supposed to be much sooner to be ex, and say, gosh, like I really need to stay on our insurance. And so of course he said, we can just wait a few months and see how it all pans out. But it was really tumultuous because here I was trying to get grounded and settled in a new place, but I had this thing going on, but it was interesting as I met with like my surgeon and then ultimately an oncologist after everything was complete. They kept the staff would always say to me like, "Are you okay?" And I'd say, "Oh yeah, I'm okay." They're like, "You don't seem very worried about this." And I said, "Oh no, I'm not worried about it." And they would really, they would be really puzzled over that. They thought she's either in deep denial or, but I explained to them that this is a point I think sometimes people just overlook is like, well, I don't know what to do about cancer. I'm not a physician. Like, I have no idea what to do about cancer.
Right.
But you do. Like, I just really trusted that I was in the right place. And that's what I would say. No, like, you know what to do about cancer, but I don't know what to do about cancer.
So wait, was your doctor very positive as well? Was that where you were getting it from? Because if your doctor was like,
wow, he was amazing. Like, it was, at first they caught it very early. So I wasn't, down the road with it, which was great, very early. But my doctor was incredible. He was an older doctor. I mean, relatively. He was probably between 75 and 80 at that point. Okay. And he'd actually done surgery on me like ages ago. So I kind of knew him a little bit.
Very well experienced.
Yes, very well experienced. And when I was in the hospital for, I think it was the second surgery actually, like just sitting on the edge of the bed waiting for them to come get me, he sat down on the bed beside me, put his arm around me and said, "I love you."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "I love you too." And I thought, when does that ever, like, that brings tears to my eyes. Like,
That's
how
right.
did that ever happen? But I think it's just, I knew I was in good hands, you know? And when I ended up going to the oncologist, he said, you know, he sat with me for an hour and he said, with most people in this condition, here's what I would recommend. And it was going on that kind of long-term chemotherapy drug.
Yeah.
And he said, but here's why we do it a lot of times is because people are really worried about, and they feel like this is sort of, what would you call that? Like it's sort of insurance against getting in. He goes, but you're not worried. And I said, no, I'm not worried at all. And he said, well, then I would say it's completely your choice whether you take it or not. And I said, well, then my choice is going to be no, because I just feel.
So you just chose just to do the surgery and no treatments at all? No. That's amazing.
No treatments.
Wait, Kim, we have to go back though. Again, and it's always people like you that you just like, yeah, this is what happened.
This is a run of the mill for me.
Yeah, exactly. But let's go back to the phone call. You get a phone call from your doctor who tells you that you have breast cancer. What are you thinking?
Well, my parents were there that day. I remember they were there. And so I was actually, what I was thinking was I was more worried that they were going to be worried.
Wow.
Like again, like my deeper sense, and this is just sort of how I'm wired and I just trust in divine timing. I trust in how life works. I trust that God's bringing me into situations that I need to be in for some reason. Like I just have that trust. It's happened for me so many times in my life that's the way it's worked out that I'm not going to start questioning it. Like I was 50 years old. I wasn't going to start questioning it then.
Wow, that's great.
But it was a lot, you know.
Oh,
There's no doubt it was a lot, but it's just I kept choosing to think about it in a way that no, I'm being taken care of. I'm being taken care of by God. Like life is taking care of me. So
wow.
in some way or the other.
And that is definitely half the battle. I would imagine that's half the battle is your mental attitude once you're diagnosed with anything. When you're diagnosed, that's amazing. So okay, let me ask you about your positive attitude because you mentioned God. Where does this positive attitude? Again, you're hit with the news that you have cancer, and you have a positive. Now you had a great doctor, no doubt that can make a difference. But still, it comes down to you. Where does that attitude come from?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard question to answer. Like, I got so I'll get a little bit spiritual here.
Yeah.
When I was 8 years old, I had an experience that the only way I can articulate it was sort of like this instantaneous enlightenment experience. I don't know how else to explain it. I was sitting in church at Christmas and the light of God shone on me and through me. Like I can't explain it. And it's at that night when we were going home from church, I'm like on the back of the car seat saying to my parents, I was 8. I don't want any presents. I don't need any presents. I have everything I need. And my parents were just sort of like,
that's right, 8 years old.
I know, because I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't want to mess up this amazing connection I felt to everything.
Oh, wow.
And so I think it's set, to me, there's a reference point that got set in me at that point, even though I forgot about that happened for I didn't remember it for 30 some years. But I think it sort of set this little point in me that remembered something much deeper about all of us.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened. And so then when it came time that I needed that again, I kind of led a charmed life up until sort of a lot of things. I didn't really have that many stresses until this, this period of things that happened. And that's when I needed to sort of connect back in with that. And I think somehow I did.
Holy cow. So from the time that you were diagnosed to the time that you were even at your second surgery, how much time was there?
Oh gosh, probably 6 or 8 weeks. It was really short period. It was very short because they wanted to kind of get me taken care of pretty quickly.
And I would imagine that you go back for checkups. Are you ever nervous when you? And I hate to ask these questions. I know how I would be. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I got to go back for a checkup.
Yeah.
I almost don't want to go to the doctor. I'm one of those people.
Yeah, the first checkup I did, and they were doing them every 6 months for a while, but the first one I did, sure enough, there was another kind of suspicious spot, not in the same place, and so I had to have another biopsy, and that was kind of Like, okay, but again, I thought, okay, that's going to be enough, and sure enough, it was. And then I had my checkups
So it was nothing.
So it was nothing. It was just kind of abnormal cells.
Yeah,
Nothing we needed to do anything about. And then I continued for about 2.5 years having those every 6 months. And then I got this, and I don't suggest this for anyone else, by the way. Like, this is not medical advice. But I just had this intuitive hit that perhaps the tests themselves might be worse for me than just letting things ride. And I did that. And so instead I went back like 2.5 years later, and it's all fine.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
Wow.
And so, so now I go like every year, but I didn't want to go every 6 months. It didn't feel right for my body.
No,
and again, I'm not saying that for anybody else at all. But.
Exactly. And I'm glad because I'm glad you're saying that, but I absolutely agree, because again, I believe so strongly in, when you believe, there's a bunch of sayings about this, but when you believe something to be true, it's true. In other words, This is how you see it.
Right.
And that works the opposite. If you think things are horrible, man, things seem to go horrible.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Yes. And there's so much with breast cancer, and this isn't for everybody. People a lot of times think about sort of the genetics and families and all that. They don't think a lot about the emotional, right?
Yes.
But I had my heart broken. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, that was going through something that was heartbreaking. And that's so much about, breast cancer can be about the heart and your feelings and that sort of thing. So Absolutely. I think it was much more about what I was going through than anything else.
Absolutely.
I felt,
Absolutely. Yeah. And also during that time period, which we're going to talk about in part 2, you were also dealing with your sons.
Yes.
Did you find out, we're going to go to part 2, but did you find out about it during that time?
No.
Right
and
before?
This is why I think, this is honestly part of also why I think I got that situation with breast cancer, because it primed me for what was to come. That wasn't about me, but my son. Yeah.
Stick around for part 2.